Well, Mr. Rekpene Bassey, a security expert and President, African Council on Narcotics, and Mr. Vince Oyekwelu, who is a security consultant and also a former British police officer. They're still with us in the studio. And we're talking about security. Just before we went on break, we did say we're going to explore why it is that it's been difficult to explore community policing options in Nigeria. But just before we go to that particular issue, let's focus a little on what the Inspector General of Police was saying in that video which you just saw on his visit to Lagos. Gentlemen, I'm sure you heard him there. I don't know if it was very clear in your ears. There's been an upsurge also of extrajudicial killings, it would seem, on the part of the police in recent times. And the police, the Inspector General has had to put his foot down, almost stating, we don't know whether there are new rules of engagement or if they have been there before now, saying that policemen will have to use more stun guns. Vince, would you like to comment on this? And what is your take on what's been responsible or why we're seeing more and more extrajudicial killings on the part of the police?
I think I'm very much, I like the person of the current IGP of police. He seems to be a big professional. I give him kudos for the way he's been carrying on. Let me also say that when it comes to the issue of using stun guns and tasers, we need to see a better preparation for the Nigerian police officers before you actually hand over the stun guns or tasers to them. I've seen police officers who use their rifles as a social threat. I've been in a mechanic shop and one of them turned up and just pointed the gun at the mechanic. I'm going to shoot you for not finishing my car. And these are meant to be Nigerian police. It could be a joke, but as a professional, you don't joke with such things. What is the assurance that if these guys are not well trained, they can use these stun guns or tasers for joke to see the reaction on a tout or on a thug, to have that fun, that laughter? However, I think it's a good idea to reduce the usage of extrajudicial killings in Nigeria. However, let's look at these practical frontline operational ideas. We need to do fresh things first. We need to make sure to bring on board an impromptu stop and check for Nigerian police officers. What this does that you can have a team of police officers that can stop any police team on the street and do a drug test on them or alcohol test on them. It's very simple to achieve this.
Who's going to do that?
Fellow police officers.
Okay.
All right, because so you bring
the police's police.
Internal affairs,
yeah.
All right. So it's very important that we start to do this on-the-spot check for Nigerian police. Even the military also, even the army also needs to be involved in this, and they need to be protected. So when they're going up on operations, they need to have armed men with them. Because if you go without guns and meet a bunch of police officers or army officers, they can slap you because they've got weapons. So on-the-spot check to check not only drugs, also check alcohol, because what we are going through in Nigeria is a society whereby we don't know about the mental health capacity of most of our officers. We just give them AK-47. You don't know their state of mind. We don't know if he's been able to deal with a divorce case, or if he's dealing with his child out of school, or not being able to pay some responsibility that he's supposed to pay bills in the village, in his community. And that could put tension on him. Mental health check is very important in policing. And then we need to check officer safety training. It's only in Nigeria officers don't do training after every 5 months. In the Met, every 5 months, you must go for a reorientation, see about new technologies, new ways to handcuff criminals, new ideas, how to manage your safety. If somebody comes with you with a knife, new idea, you don't have a gun, most of us don't carry guns to do our operations. You learn new skills, how to deal with somebody with a knife or with a gun, how to keep your life safe. But in Nigeria, the same training from the police college, 3 years, 4 years, 2 trainings. The one you meet in the college, very important to bring you into service. Then the people, your peers you meet in the service, they will educate you so much because some have been 35 years, 20 years, they understand the streets more than you. We need to check the people that train our police right from the police colleges. I have this feeling that there are some people that have been there for years that have lost touch with crime-fighting systems in the world. But because they are there, they're still being there. Police colleges have to be checked all around the country. Then, when in service, how do we prosecute people? The police and the army needs to bring more information about the prosecution of criminals in Nigeria. So criminals can have a reason to say that a life of crime is not the best way to go. In Nigeria, we don't know much about criminals' journey. We just hear that they've been arrested, they've been neutralized, bang, that's the last you hear about them. Next thing, if it's the army, they've been reoriented to the society again. They are nice people now. We're giving them money to go home, to start a business. What about re-offending? How do we confirm that? Obviously, the army should not get involved in bombing bandits stations in Zamfara State. That is not the job of the army. When you neutralize them, when you bomb them, the side effect of those chemicals that you've used to bomb that community, there could be effects on the topography, on the geology of the soil, about for the farmers to use tomorrow. Mothers, children, pregnant mothers may have side effects in their lives. You don't buy bombs and jets to go and bomb civilian criminals. You need to have a better system to know, give them area surveillance, area coverage, and then send the men on the floor to see you can arrest them. If some people don't want to be arrested, there's a better way we do it. We are the police. If you want peace, we give you peace. If you don't want peace, we give you what you want. But the bottom line is life of crime. There is no big work on punishment, on correction in Nigeria. So stun guns, tasers, fine, but understand that stun gun is different from a taser. Why do I say this? A stun gun needs you to be in closer contact with the culprit for you to be able to execute. Without tasers, you can stay 10 feet, 15 feet, and still release your tasers, and it's going to work. And you've got about 15 seconds without getting electrocuted also. Because if the shocks are still there, an officer touched the culprit or the suspect, you could get electrocuted also. So the training and the mindset of those that will give the license to use our tasers and stun guns have to be on top of that. And when it comes to the issue of arms, they should not take their tasers home. They should not take their stun guns home. Because in Nigerian police and army, they take their guns. I'm not sure about the army, but I'm sure about the police. They take their guns home. When you finish your operations, go back to the armory and hand over your gun, sign off. The same thing with the tasers. I've seen Nigerian officers that carry a pistol in their cars. I'm not going to name names, but it's wrong for you to take any equipment, any tool. After operation, you go home with it. To your wife, to your 2-year-old kid, 3-year-old kid that can be mischievous and pull something. They need to return every tool used for operations back to the armory and sign off. And notebooks. You don't keep records of your operations on the field. So they don't have a simple wristwatch. I think we need to go back to the drawing line and see that the police is the most beautiful frontline defense in a national internal security. Some countries don't have the army, but every country has the police. So we need to understand the role of the police and help our police to be better than that. Right now in Nigeria, it breaks my heart that a police officer, I saw one on social media. He was harassing a young boy for having a phone of 250,000 naira. Sorry, sir, you chose to be a police officer, but you don't have a fresh degree. You entered from a particular set of police officers that you know what your longevity is like. And you want to drive the best Mercedes-Benz in the country. Sorry, you cannot. If you want to do more, educate yourself more. Go to courses, go to trainings, go to university, build your career so you can rise up.
Just, you know, you were talking about, Mr. Vasi, you were talking about community policing just before we went on break and some of the measures that you took. Now, when you listen to some of the things that we have heard in recent times about the Nigerian police and the fact that they have been having with fellow Nigerians, and especially in Lagos, for instance, or in Edo State, you know, do you think that this kind of news, this kinds of stories encourage relationship between the Nigerian police and the local populace which they're supposed to be policing?
Well, it's a moot question you have asked. You know, a bit difficult, but let me put it proverbially. Even the tongue and the teeth exist within the same cavity of the mouth, and so from time to time they have conflict, but it's still there. You know, there's nothing we can do about it. Crime would continue to be there. So we need policemen to execute, you know, law enforcement operations and activities. You know, so long as you have human beings, so would there be crime. So we need the policemen. But I think this relationship can be also encouraged. There's a lot that can be done to encourage the relationship between police. And in fact, like my colleague here was saying earlier, in many countries, you do not have the army, but almost in every country, you have the police. And the police is the lead agency when it comes to law enforcement. And in fact, in terms of close contact with members of the public, as first responders, the police, comes there. So there's very little or nothing we can do without the police. We, members of the public must learn to, live with the police. And policemen must also, being also close, members, being so close to society, must do the best they can to cultivate to, very good relationship with members of the public.
Well, why do you think that it's been difficult to establish very concretely some of the measures that you enhance community policing in Nigeria? Why has it been so difficult? You talked about the measure you tried to put in place when you were in Cross River State.
Trust is a big problem. People find it difficult to trust policemen. You see, the norm, or what you hear, almost every time is police is your friend. And then you go give information to the policeman, and then you run into trouble because you're going to probably, get taken in to offer more information. And then sometimes people have offered information to the police, and this information will go out, to those about whom such information have been offered. And so those who offered such information ran into trouble. Next time, if you have useful information, you'll find it extremely difficult to go to the police to offer, information. So there's a problem of trust, the major problem.
Yeah,
it's
but
a big problem.
Sometimes one might argue that trust might exist. That trust problem might exist everywhere. What has been done in some countries is to get the information anonymously. Why is that so difficult here?
Well, like in the example that I gave about the commissioner of police who got a direct call, that was anonymous. You see, when you deal with certain cadre, certain levels of personnel and officers, you almost can be sure you go back to your bedroom at night and sleep without your eyes open, But, of course, amongst every 12, there's a Judas. So, even amongst policemen, for all the reasons that there are those who go about the activities, unprofessionally, So,
you think trust is just the issue?
Yeah, I think for the most part, trust is the problem. Trust is the issue, for the most part.
What do you also say to those who say, well, yes, indeed, we might have funding issues for our police, but we know that state governments somehow, also fund the Nigeria police. We have some states who set up trust funds for them to augment whatever it is that is given at the federal level. There is almost no state government that doesn't fund the federal police in its own state, in addition to perhaps some other apparatus of security meant to supplement or support the Nigeria police. Can we really still say that the problem largely is funding?
Well, I think that you can't fund the police enough to begin with. The police requires so much funding because of the challenges that they face. Now, what do you require funding for the police for? Structural measures, equipment, and on a daily basis, you have a new set of equipment that are state of the art coming out. They need training, like my colleague mentioned earlier. They need training. They need to be catered for. They need to be insured. Who wants to put his life on the red line, and in the course of which he may lose that life and leave a family behind? You do not have that kind of boost, that kind of encouragement to want to, go the whole hog to do your work because you're not sure the consequences if anything were to happen to you. I don't know how much. Look, in the U.S., for example, some time ago, I was at the New York Police Department, and some of those and for instructions, for training. Some of those who offered these instructions were sergeants. These sergeants were well paid. These sergeants are not only well paid, they are insured, and they are so well catered for. And so they do their work with all that they have, so funding, yes, is, I can tell you this, you can't have enough funding for the police. The more by the break of each day, newer and newer challenges in terms of crime are emerging, and for which, proactive measures must be put in place instead of reactive measures to be able to deal with that. But the question, that I can ask based on the question you asked me is, if states are doing so much in terms of funding the police and have the capacity and are willing to even do more, why are we shying away from the establishment of state police? I don't know if that's a valid question,
Is it something you,
for me,
is it something
something
you
I would
recommend?
advocate for, seriously, yes. Seriously. I mean...
Vince, I'd like to put to you a personal question. You were with the British police. Would you have considered at any point in time joining the Nigerian police force?
Nigeria is my country, so obviously for me to relocate home to Nigeria, it shows a willingness to add value. Loads of people that may have a half of the opportunity I have to obviously be where I've been would not ever even think of coming back home to Nigeria. So if anything I can do to add value to my fatherland, I would do it. That was the reason I relocated home. I could have stayed where I am, comfortable, I have every right to be there. But I chose to come home to add value. I don't want to come back when I'm 80 years to say, hey, why these things are not working? But I want to come home and add value. So why not? However, let's
more directly joining the Nigerian police. I mean, of course, you can add value in many other places.
Yes, yes, yes. It's a fantastic force that needs great ideas with people who have got great matters to add value to them. Yes, yes, yes. And if I join the police, for example, or any security agency, we need to look at policies. When I catch you with an illegal firearm, what does the policy say in Nigeria? And is it being implemented?
Do you think you'd have been able to function as well? I mean, this is considering the challenges facing the average Nigerian policeman and also or the average Nigerian security official, because some people might argue that this is not just about the problem of the police, is in almost every security agency that do you think you'd have been able to function properly?
Probably even function a lot better.
You think so?
Why do I say this? Being 6'7", obviously an African with an African name, there are places I've been as a police officer in the UK where I had experiences of racism. But because I've been trained at the Peel Center, the Hendon Police Academy, to be the best, I was highly motivated by my trainers. So I know how to turn pressure to my advantage. So I've been criticized because of who I am, an African, by some public members, not the police. I know we talked about issue of institutional racism in the UK, but the Met, fantastic for their officers, motivation, inspiration, and you know who you are and you can build. In 6 months, in 1 year, in 2 years, I know the number of courses I was able to do. And it's easy. Online, study, write your exam, certificate comes to you immediately. You can print it out. So I became very vast in different areas. So I could even do more in Nigeria. I speak Igbo, I speak Hausa, and I started a bit of Yoruba. Okay, Nigeria needs help. And we need to encourage people that have got the mindset. Because for you to survive in Nigeria without NEPA, without light, all throughout the night, it's enough orientation for me. You can't survive if you're not strong to be here. I would have run back home. But I chose to be here. So people think, oh, if I work in the UK or in the US, I'll be a better. No, you'll not be a better police officer. You'll probably be worse. Because there, you know your rank, you know your income, and you have to live within your income. You're not above the law. But in Nigeria, you see officers that can drive behind the traffic, in front of the traffic, because they are army uniform, police officer. But you cannot do that over in the US or in the UK. You work based on laws laid down for you to work on. So I think Nigeria is even easier to work in. Yes, we have our challenges. The same way people over there in the UK have their challenges. So I think nobody will call you, you're a black man here, because it's not part of us. So I think the bottom line for us to watch in Nigerian national security is we need to do more than what we are doing. Anybody caught with a live ammunition or bullets needs to have a number of years they have to go in. Not if, not but, because the proliferation of firearms in Nigeria is flying right, left, and center. It's dangerous in Nigeria that firearms are all over the place. Now, a policeman with a stun gun or a taser comes up with a thug that have been sponsored by politicians 3 months ago. They've got so much millions of naira in their bank accounts. They don't have respect for anybody. So when you're a politician and you use thugs to win elections, those thugs you've sponsored will work against your society tomorrow.
Are you also advocating state policing as a solution?
State policing is something that we need to look into holistically. It's not about state police, it's about the concept, the processes. And I think the Deputy Senate President, Senator Ike Ekweremadu, has written very good articles about state policing and what he believes. I believe in state policing, and I believe in the level of processes makes it very perfect. Because the IGP or Malam Garba Shehu will say to you that when many states cannot pay their civil servants, how can you now make sure that they can pay their police officers? And Senator Ike Ekweremadu came with a document that shows you how the Police Service Commission can be broken down into states governed by the central body to make sure that these monies are paid to them. So I think it's about working out the processes out, not just about bring sting gun, bring taser, bring state policing, bring community policing. You bank everything, but you're not patient to develop the processes and then implement and regulate it to work. Short term, medium term, long term. See, policing is an art and a science. You need to love what you're doing. Many of our officers, we are recruited by people they know that are in power. They don't love the job. So the passion is not there. So inside them, they see you as a young man with a tattoo and a dreadlock. They get jealous. They see you as an enemy.
You think it's a matter of jealousy? But, you know, we're already running out of time now. Some people just, it's a simple matter of profiling. If a young girl, I mean, sorry to our parents, but I know that if a young girl went home with a man with dreadlocks and tattoo all over his body, the chances that her parents will say, is this the person you want to marry, are quite high. And maybe it's just a question of mindset, which maybe needs to change. But in your closing comments now, gentlemen, and you both have 30 seconds each, what would you say we need to be attacking first? What would you say to Nigerians we as a country or we as a people need to be doing? Do you want to quickly say something?
I think one, we need to look at unemployment. Seriously look at unemployment. Two, we need to do better with the police and possibly have a hybrid, you know, an intervention force, special force that would, you know, come in between, you know, something that would be in between the army and the police. Maybe some national guard, you know, apart from my strong advocacy for state police and community policing.
Vince?
One, make sure anybody carrying illegal guns has a level of prosecution. Number two, police safety training. Every 4-5 months, let police officers get new orientation so they get retrained every time. Number three, let's seem to be punishing criminals. Let the army know their role on internal security. Arrest them, prosecute them, and let the public know. Number five, support the victims of crime where parents have been killed. Number six, Southern Kaduna.
We're going to go on and on, Vince.
In jail. They're not
We're
supposed
going
to be
to
in jail.
go on and on, Vince, but we're totally out of time, gentlemen. And we have to thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. I hope my comments on dreadlocks and tattoos will not be misinterpreted, but, you know, we can always have that conversation on Twitter. Thank you so much for coming. We've been speaking with Vince Onyekwelu, who is a former British police officer and also a security consultant. And we also had Mr. Rekwe Nebasi, who is a security expert and President, African Council on Narcotics. Sunrise Daily continues in a moment. Please stay with us.